everybody! Welcome to Prop Live Q&A. I'm Bill. We're ready for your weekly prop and costume making Q&A session. And of course, this week we have a fantastic guest, someone whose YouTube channel I have been a fan of for a very long time. And, by the way, who we are practically tied with for subscribers. Mr. Cosplay Chris, all the way from Australia. Hello, good sir. Welcome to the show.
Bill, how are you, mate? Very nice to chat.
I'm doing fantastic. I was doing some painting today in the shop for some tutorial videos coming up in the next couple of weeks. How about you? What have you been up to today? Which is tomorrow, by the way, since you're in Australia.
Yeah, from the future, I can officially say nothing's happened. You've missed nothing. Not much. It's, middle of blaring hot summer here, so just kind of winding down for the new year, working on a new Batfleck cosplay, so I've just been fiddling with my utility belt for that. Other than that, just taking it easy, mate, just having a nice little break.
Fantastic. I'm excited to see your Batfleck come together. I for one, I think Ben Affleck Batman is okay. I don't love it or hate it, but the suit I love. I really love that suit.
Yeah. It was definitely like a massive feat in like costume engineering when they designed that thing. And it looks so simple, yet the tech that went into it is ridiculous.
Absolutely. For the uninitiated, by the way, everybody, if you go to YouTube and look up Cosplay Chris, you'll find his channel. You should hit that subscribe button because Chris has got a ton of wonderful costume videos, along with some other stuff, including your collectibles, which are some of my favorite videos.
Thank you.
My opinion is that cosplay is like the ultimate expression of someone's fandom, and I think you sort of embody that the most of a lot of people. Especially when it comes to like when you buy a toy and you're like, this is okay, but I could make it even better if I repainted it. So, for example, you've got those Ninja Turtles hiding behind you there, and you built a whole diorama for them.
Well, that's the thing. Like, no work was needed for the figures themselves. Like, NECA killed it.
Yes.
With the four of them. I nearly dropped the ball on the Prime 1 statues, and luckily I didn't. Look, as good as they did look, there was something like off about them. I don't know what it was. And then NECA, had the prototypes at Comicon, and I'm like, this is it. This is affordable and they're posable. So so happy I waited and got all four because again, like we discussed before, it's our childhood. It's what we grew up with. It's what we're familiar with. So. And in terms of the whole custom collectibles thing, like detail in toys these days is crazy because they're all using 3D files. Everything's 3D printed and routed and CNC'd as opposed to hand sculpting and, making molds, stuff like that. It's all done on computer. So everything's hard edge now and a lot more defined. So that's when like the first one I did was the Hulkbuster, the Titan series Hulkbuster. I remember walking past that in Toys R Us and thinking, this has to be done. So that's where it all started, and it just keeps growing and growing. The feedback's been great, and it was nice to know that I kind of tapped into something that people appreciate.
It's really great. I know I've done some of my own. Now I stick mostly to prop and costume stuff, so I haven't done very many repaints or videos of collectibles, but I've done a couple. Right behind me, I got the little R2-D2. That's the
Get that.
Yeah, that's the Sideshow. I think the Sideshow one, and that was one where I was at San Diego Comic-Con. I walked past the booth, and a woman was showing all of the pieces that come with it. He opened all his little doors open. A little lightsaber comes out, and she was just showing it off at their booth. I walked by, and I was like, "I'll take it." Like that's all I needed to buy it. And again, the paint job on that's amazing. But I also built my own diorama to hold all of this.
I love it. How long did that take you to make?
I don't know, like a day or two. It's all just MDF. Yeah. And it has a drawer in it to hold all of his accessories. So he's got many accessories. So if I want him to look like he's wandering around Jabba's sail barge, those parts are in the drawer and I can go put them on if I want.
Gotcha. Like he's playing the little waiter.
Yeah. Oh, I love that stuff. So if you guys need another reason to head on over to Chris's channel, that's a good one right there. So don't hesitate. Let's see. You've got all kinds of really cool stuff that I want to chat about. Of course, if you guys are watching live, you want to drop a question for either one of us, go to punishprops.com/live and submit it over there. In the meantime, though, I want to grill Chris on some really cool ones. Let's see here. Brittany wanted to point out the Wonder Woman shield makeover that you did.
Yep.
Which I thought was really great. Another good example of something where the actual toy was really respectable after a good paint job.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was fun to do. Look, I would like to revisit it in the future, because obviously looking at one of the screen use shields, that the crest emblem isn't actually there, and it's kind of really a rough edge in the middle of that shield. So I'd like to revisit that. And also the people who I made it for used it in a stunt show, and they didn't tell me they were going to be using it in a stunt show. And I remember this was at Supernova, which is like our version of Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And I was part of the stage show, and I'm there. I got to stand still for one of the acts, and I'm watching them do the fight with the girl as Wonder Woman. And I see her go down with the shield, and the strap comes right off from the fiberglass resin. And I'm standing there. I'm trying to act calm, like, oh my God, this is like a horror movie. So, like, I would like to revisit it. If they had told me that's what it'd been used for, I would have used, thicker leather, like proper fiberglass cloth and everything. So, like a lot of my custom collectibles, I would like to revisit them, because I do try to have it so I learn something each and every time. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I feel like I haven't done it right if I don't do it right, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So yeah, like there's always something that I learn along the way, and that's why I try and include it in my videos. If I stuff up, if I make a mistake, I'll be like, hey guys, this happened. This is what you should be doing instead. Mm-hmm. And I think people appreciate that. Instead of having it all clean and the proper way to do it, you're going to make mistakes along the way. It's the only way to do it.
I feel the same way. Now, a couple of other things. You spent some time in the States this last year.
Yes.
Now, you were at... Did you go to San Diego Comic-Con?
I went to San Diego Comic-Con in 2015. I drove down from Anaheim. It was for a day trip, because obviously all the hotels were sold out in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And I could only score the Thursday badges. Like, the process to get the badges is ridiculous. Like, I had to get up at 2 a.m. here to be in that stupid virtual waiting room, And anyway, got Thursday tickets. That's all I could get. I'm like, that's okay. Drove down for the day. It was amazing, but the crowd was just intense.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, like, because that was the year when they had Affleck's suit on display, the Mech suit, Gal's suit, Henry's suit, and they were releasing the Suicide Squad trailer and the Batman v Superman trailer too. And the crowd was just nuts. And that was for a Thursday alone. So it was so much cool stuff to see, but at the same time, you want to go see something, and you got to pass like a crowd, like a highway of people to get to, say, the Sideshow booth or the NECA booth. But I definitely want to go back. But it's cool that people make an event of it outside who couldn't score a badge. So I reckon that's what I do, because like most times out of 10, I'm not going to get a badge. So I'd happily like dress up and just hang out the front with everyone.
Yeah, I've been there 3 times and I've never actually ever got a badge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll borrow a badge so I can go in, but there's enough going on outside that I can have a good time.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I went back earlier this year, and I went to the RPF party at Frank Ippolito's.
That's
right. That was crazy. Like, Norm was there. And it was just really cool to see everyone's props and just talk shop with everyone, see Frank's stuff. And then I also got to work at Studio ADI for 3 days, which was beyond a dream, because, when I was younger and when I started high school, Spider-Man came out. They did the suits for Spider-Man. They did Starship Troopers, Alien vs. Predator, and all that. So to work with Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff was just crazy. And they're so great. They love their team. They look after everyone there. So that was a great insight to, get knowledge from them. And Um, yeah, just see some great behind the scenes stuff as well.
That's awesome. I will say, and I watched all of these things, or you have videos for all of them, of course, on your YouTube channel, and I highly recommend everyone go check them out. I have never been to an RPF party. Somehow, I've never made it to one. And having it right in Frank's shop, which, by the way, Frank just got a new shop.
I saw that. It's massive.
It's like 10,000 square feet. So the next RPF party had better be there, and you'll be sure to find me right there.
Hopefully I will be there too, man. It'll be like a massive rave party for props.
I'll have to bring a bunch of stuff down. That'll be awesome. But it was really cool to see the last party from your point of view. Speaking of new shops, you have a new shop, if I'm not mistaken.
I do.
Yes.
My amazing other half and her father put their heads together. Whilst Laura and I were in Kuwait at the IGN convention, we were guests there, and whilst we were over there, her father, Jason, slaved away with my parents as well to make this workshop, working 14-hour days. And when we got back, surprised me. So we're actually finishing the workshop off tomorrow. We've got to do the rest of the workbench. And then, it's all done, but it's crazy because I'd worked in a dungeon for so long in such low light. Like, people have watched my videos before the workshop. There was just stuff everywhere. Like, it wasn't like garbage. It was just clutter because when you're a prop builder, you accumulate all this stuff, whether it be mold, castings, materials, all that type of stuff. But now to have such, a bright workspace with LED downlights and like, you walk in, you've got a spray booth, and you feel much more at home than you did before.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now tell me, are all of the lights, because this is not the case for me, but are all of the lights the same color temperature? Because that would be great.
Yeah, it is. So they actually sync up with my box lights that I use. Say if I'm filming a video in here, that's where I sit. Usually I'll have a box light here and here. And I use that because I film out in the workshop now. That's my new backdrop. And obviously you've got the LED down lights, but you still need a source of light on your face, so it doesn't cast a shadow. And those lights sync up perfectly with the lights that Laura's dad put in, which was great.
That is the thing I'm most jealous of, because in my basement there are no two identical light bulbs. So everywhere I point my camera, the white balance is just all over the place.
Well, yeah, see, I was the same when I started, and I was wondering, I'm like, is it the camera? What's wrong with it? I'm like, it's the lighting.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I am very excited to see your journey in the new shop and see what you start cooking up with all that freedom. It's going to be exciting.
Yes. Lots of stuff happening in the new year. Like, we're working, my friend Ben and I are working on a Justice League cowl. I've also got the half-scale Justice League cowl displays. I've obviously got the Batflex suit. What else? So I'm doing Captain Nomad next year from Infinity War. Yeah, a lot happening, and I do want to revisit Captain Boomerang, and I put to it because at first, because I'm growing my hair long, I've never had long hair in my life, and I figured I'd just pop the black beanie on and still get away with it without having the pineapple haircut. So yeah, and obviously like custom collectibles galore. It's just like a bit of a drought at the moment because of the end of the year, but I've got a Ruby Star-Lord blaster that I'm going to be customizing.
Ooh. I did one of those. That's a good one.
Yeah, so I'm looking into the vinyl carbon fiber wrap for the hand grip just to make sure that it's done right. Because I don't want to do it. I do want to do it justice, and because that carbon fiber grip is such a centerpiece of the screen used prop.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna do it right.
Yeah, don't do it the way I did it. I did. I got the carbon fiber vinyl and I wrapped it, and then I covered it in epoxy, and that looked really bad. So
did it not dry clear, or
it was just the texture? Because if it was actual carbon fiber that came out of a mold, it would be perfectly glossy, and then you would see the carbon fiber underneath it. This was more like the vinyl faux carbon fiber didn't absorb any of the epoxy at all. So it just ended up with kind of like a bumpy textured surface. It wasn't great.
See, that's what my thought is. I'm like, is this, when I do it, is it something I should be sealing it up with or just leave it as is? So I want to get a swatch to make sure it's going to overlay over the bumps carefully and not look tacky.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've never used it before, so I don't want to waste money on getting a whole bunch. I'd rather get a little swatch, say, off eBay and then more.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a bunch left over from mine, and I'll send you some.
You're too good, man.
I don't know what I ordered a roll of it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So I'll send you more than you need. So plenty to do experiments with, and then you can come back and tell me the best way to do it, and I'll fix mine.
Well, I'll send you some castings.
Okay. Deal.
But yeah, I was fortunate enough to go up to Brisbane a couple of months ago with some mates to the Marvel exhibition, the Cinematic Universe exhibition. So I got to take all high-quality photos of the Civil War suit for when I do the Captain Nomad suit, and also the Star-Lord blaster, which was great. So yeah, like that was like reference galore. And just,
nice.
It's because nothing's in a glass case, so you can kind of, lean over, look at everything up close and be like, I know how they did that, or that's foam. Like, it's amazing to see how much of costumes are done on the cheap.
Yeah.
Whether it be Marvel, DC, or anything, it's cool to see if there's stuff that's made with commercial stuff you can buy already.
That is right. What I've been told from prop makers I know in Hollywood is that if the costume falls apart the moment after they step off set, then they did it just right.
Yeah, that's it.
If it lasts longer than that, then they put too much time into it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like with the Batman and Robin suits, you hear like, oh, they tore all the time. I'm like, well, yeah, it's foam latex and they're doing all this stuff. So it's got to look beautiful, but at the same time, it's delicate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that's awesome. Before we start jumping into questions, which we will do in just a moment, we got a bunch coming in.
Yep.
I have a couple things to cover. First of all, I finished a gun for a short film. My friends over at Film Riot did a sci-fi short film called Sentinel, and it was really cool. I had full reign to design my own space gun, so I made one out of foam and PVC pipe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they made it look awesome. It's all foam and PVC, but when you add sound effects, it feels real. It's like,
oh, love it.
It sounded just like that.
Brilliant.
And they did a behind the scenes on how they put that film together. So if you go over to Film Riot's channel, you can see all that. What else do we have over here? Oh, and I just put up a video yesterday that was just a recap of all the projects we did this year, or not even all of them, but many of them. I don't know if you feel this way, Chris, but when I get to the end of the year, sometimes it's easy to forget like how far you came that year. And I'm like, I don't really feel like I accomplished that much this year. But then I went and went through all my videos and put together a recap, and I was like, whoa, we did a lot this year.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you have to go back and physically see it before you realize it, because you can think about it in your head, but there's stuff obviously you'll forget, or that you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I did that.
Yeah, I forgot. There are things I built this year that I don't even remember building.
Yeah, exactly. It was all one giant blur. I can't remember anything.
Awesome. All right, let's move forward here. We've got some questions from the Prop Tarts in the chat. Of course, since Brittany is corralling all of the questions, she gets to put her question in first. She says, first, Chris, do you have any pets, and what are their names?
Okay. Do you have an hour and a half?
Yeah,
so
many pets.
My parents have, I'm not going to call it a business. It's a passion for them where they take our pets around to nursing homes, and it's like animal therapy. So we have 2 cats, we have a rabbit, we have 10 parrots, which includes sun conures, Alexandrine parrots. We've had eclectus parrots. We've got fantail pigeons, like show pigeons with the fantail. We've got silky chickens, Chinese silky chickens that Mum in their bath. Like she gives them a bath each week, and in the bath water she puts food coloring, which by the way is humane, all that stuff, and it dyes their white feathers, say pink, blue, yellow, and she takes them around to nursing homes, and the residents love it. So we've got like a menagerie here. It's ridiculous.
Fantastic. We just have the 2 cats, and it's crazy enough for me. Actually, we have a dog. We're watching our friend's dog this week.
Oh, okay. All right. And that's good. Like the cats are great, especially like our youngest one, Dolly. She's a ragdoll cat, and she'll just come up in the workshop and just supervise, and she does nothing, but I just call her the supervisor.
Yep. Brittany had another good question. She's curious what your favorite supply stores are in Australia for making stuff.
Okay, so our equivalent of Home Depot is called Bunnings Warehouse.
Okay.
It's exactly like Home Depot, just different branding, different colors and everything. So that's where I get majority of my prop building stuff from. In terms of the specialty stuff, like what Smooth On offers in the States, we have a place called Barnes, which pretty much offers the exact same stuff, but it's our Australian version, like, Platsil Gel 10. We have Pinky Sil, which is a molding silicone, resins, urethanes, everything. We do have Smooth On here, but it's so expensive because of the import premium that they put on it. So I actually won some Smooth On stuff at the prop party this year. And it's at my friend's house in LA who I was staying with. She's like, I can't take this home because you can't take this stuff home. So she's like, what are we going to do with it? I'm like, I don't know, mold something, cast something. So Bunnings Warehouse and Barnes are my 2 favorite suppliers. We also have Dowcam, which is down in Melbourne, which is south of Sydney. So that's pretty much the same as Barnes and Smooth On.
Very good. Always very interested to hear where people get their stuff all around the world.
Yeah.
Also, if I find myself in Australia, then I'll know where to go.
Oh, exactly.
Thanks for the questions, Brittany. We got some more here. This one comes to us from Brian. He says, being a fellow Aussie and unfortunately on a very limited budget. He's actually just asking a similar question about buying materials for molding my own custom pieces. So that would be, would you say Barnes?
Definitely Barnes. So
Yeah.
if you're going to be molding the pieces, it's going to be Pinky Sil Silicone, which is it's so easy to use. 1-to-1 ratio. Like in a day like this, if you're doing a block mold, you'd probably be cracking it open in half an hour and then casting it. You use super cast resin, easy cast, or if our equivalent of a clear resin is called Bee Queen, if you want to tint it with solid colors or transparent stuff. So yeah, look, the only thing is like this stuff is quite pricey, as you know. Like whether it be Smooth On or Barnes, there is definitely a bit of a high price tag on there. But if it's something where you can make it lucrative, it's a good investment.
Yeah, I usually tell people to get the good stuff, but start small, and then if you have a mold, you can make copies of it, and you could sell those. Then you can start to make some of that money back, which is really good.
Exactly.
And speaking of too, I forgot to mention, you've got an Etsy store and people should go check it out.
I do, and I was going to ask, I wasn't going to ask, I was going to say, I watched your video about the copyright
Yeah.
thing. A brilliant video, first of all. And I actually got a cease and desist from Warner Brothers. For my Justice League Batfleck utility belt, which funny thing is I offer the completed belt or I offer the urethane kit where people can put it together and paint the gold panels. Warner Brothers only removed the completed belt and not the kit. I'm thinking because legally the completed kit represents their image and their property. So I did get a cease and desist from them, and it was really serious. They're like, if you wish to put this sales page back up, you might want to get a lawyer. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not getting involved with this. So, and this was right before Justice League. So I guess they had their legal team doing the rounds. Have you ever run into that sort of trouble before?
I have not. When I was selling raw kits of stuff, it was mostly stuff from video games, and back then there were only a couple of video game companies that were really litigious, and the ones I happened to be making things from were not. So it just kind of worked out that way. But I will say, like things like for example, if you're doing something from Marvel, and they're owned by Disney, Disney has a habit of being very protective of their things. We say, don't upset the mouse. That's kind of how it goes. Which is fine. I mean, again, like it just like I said in my video, it's about mitigating or managing risk.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to knock at the door from the mouse and he's like, "I'm in served."
Very good. Okay, cool. Thank you, Brian, for the question. Let's go
Brian.
Grab another one from Christy, aka the Honest Cosplayer. What is your go-to airbrush? Airbrush you simply cannot live without.
I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a French name. It starts with P. Is it
Paasche?
Paasche, yes, that's the one. So I bought my first Paasche airbrush in 2011, and as of 2 months ago, I finally threw it in the bin because it just was spitting by the end of it. But it was such a good airbrush. It was the kit. It was the one with the gloss red handle. So it wasn't a gravity fed one. It was the one how you connect the bucket into the side. That is my go-to airbrush, and I've still got my air compressor from when I was in my senior year of high school. It still goes, but I do want to definitely get back into airbrushing a lot more, because once you get the hang of it, it's addictive, so addictive.
Yes, it is. I have a couple. We have a couple of Iwata Eclipse airbrushes. They're really great. They're double action. They're good for fine detail. But I've actually started using a single action Badger airbrush.
Okay, yeah. I've got a cheap little Badger one, like a throw around one. Yeah,
exactly. I ended up with a couple of them, and they're like $60, and they're a shotgun of paint. But you can get a pretty good level of control. But if you just need to cover something with like a metallic lacquer, they're dead simple. They're really awesome.
Yeah, they. I actually used that for the airbrushing on my Red Hood chest piece, because I threw out my good one. I'm like, okay, like quickly and as carefully as I could highlight all the muscle shading. So that was nerve-wracking, but it did it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I usually tell people too, once you go down the rabbit hole of airbrushes, like 5 years later, you'll say, "Why do I have 10 airbrushes?"
That's
just
it.
Kinda,
like airbrush hoarding.
Yeah, or you put them all away and they multiply. They have little airbrush babies, and then before you know it, you have all kinds of airbrushes. Thank you, Christy, for the question.
Thanks, Christy.
We have one from Daniel. What would be the best non-bandsaw way of cutting a thick block of EVA foam? He says, a coping saw came to mind. Not sure if the blade would be sturdy enough. So he's got a big chunk of EVA foam. It's just several layers that have been glued together, and he wants to cut through it nice and clean. And I would say a bandsaw. That's how I would do it.
But if you don't have access to
don't have a bandsaw, maybe just a really big, sharp, maybe a bread knife. I bet a
bread knife with a very deep miter box, perhaps. It depends how big the block is. Mm-hmm. I was also thinking one of those foam cutters with the hot wire. But then again, I don't know, like how, if you can have enough room to go all the way through, if you're going to have to turn it over and meet halfway.
People have asked about using a hot wire cutter for cutting EVA. And I don't know how well it will work. I don't have one. Again, I just use my bandsaw.
I think you'd be there for a while.
Yeah. It might take a little while.
Yeah.
But I bet if you're if you've got a bread knife in your kitchen, give it a shot. Who knows?
Bread knife, cut through anything. I think you'll be fine. You may have a sore shoulder, but correct.
But it's got that scalloped edge that most soft material blades on a bandsaw would use. So I bet that would work really well. Tell you what, Daniel is asking the question. Give it a try with a bread knife and let me know how it turns out.
I'm curious as well.
I could try. I have a bread knife upstairs. I could give it a go myself, but I like giving out homework during this show.
You're good like that. It's productive.
Yeah. Let's see here. We got another one from Nadjits. We got a couple questions, actually. What are your favorite types of things to make? Props, whole costumes, helmets, armor, something else? If you had to pick one, what's your very favorite thing to build?
If I had to pick one, it's like saying, what's your favorite movie?
Yeah. What about
I
what's your favorite thing right now? So I'm kind of on a space gun tear. That's kind of
yeah.
yeah.
At the moment, I love a good set of armor. So at the moment, I'm gearing up to make a bust of the mech suit because I now have a Affleck life cast that I can insert into my mech helmets and then 3D print the rest of, like, from here up, mounted on, say, a casting of my life cast, put the insert in there with the eyes. So that's what I'm like focused on at the moment, is like some nice armor. But I can't go past a good helmet, as you can see right here.
Yeah, that thing is awesome. The face comes off of that, right?
Yeah, so it just clips off like that.
Oh, it's so great.
So you go from Red Hood to Magneto if you want. But yeah, this was very, very fun to do, and this was this is like 2 weeks of body work and just finishing and just engineering just to make sure everything looked nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't go past a good helmet casting and doing it up.
That's great. Yeah. Oh man, have I done? I'm trying to think what my next helmet will be. I think something Lord of the Rings. We visited New Zealand last year, and ever since then I'm like, what was that?
Did you go to Weta?
We did, yeah.
Oh my god, how was it?
It was magical.
Oh my god, man, they're wizards. What they do.
Yes, they are. But I'd love to do a dwarf helmet. I think that'll be sometime this year. I'll do something like that.
Yeah.
Another question here from Najits. Any Star Wars builds coming up? Ooh.
Star Wars builds. I would love to get a blank Boba Fett helmet and do a tutorial on painting that with all the chips of and all the layers of paint, because I've seen people do it on the RPF and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
The process they go through to get it looking just right. I've also got a Parks Luke Saber that I do want to do a diorama for. So still tossing up how it's going to look. As far as that goes, I recently did the U-Wing and the TIE Striker custom collectible with the incorrect blaster colors, which was fun. But yeah, it's one of those things where I have to walk into, say, Toys R Us, Big W, or Target or Kmart and wing it, and so to speak. And then I'll be like, sweet, that'll make a good custom collectible. I've got to really be in the mood for it, because I don't want to do it, a half effort job and then feel that I haven't done it justice for people that like the custom collectibles. So it's one of those things where if I see it on the day, I'll grab it. So there's plenty of stuff, lots of stuff out there at the moment. But with The Last Jedi, there's like a massive premium on everything and how much it costs. So, but mind you, we've got the after Christmas sale, so I always try and take advantage of them.
Good call, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a buddy, Alex Lane, who does lots of Boba Fett helmets. So,
okay.
Yeah, he is worth checking out. I will send you a link to his page later. Actually, I'll put it in the chat too.
In that case.
Yeah. For me, for Star Wars, I did my Tank Trooper helmet. That's behind me right here.
I love that. It looks so cool.
And I got to do the armor. I'm gonna have to do the armor this year. I might try and do that for Emerald City Comicon this year.
Okay.
That'll be fun. But other than that, I mean, we saw the new Star Wars movie, but there wasn't anything from it that I wanted to make. I already have Luke's lightsaber, and I already made Rey's blaster, so pretty set.
Yeah, I was just saying, there was nothing that really jumped out. I mean, there was more stuff that jumped out at me in Rogue One than The Last Jedi. Like the Shore Troopers.
The Tank Troopers.
Yeah, just like the Tank Troopers. I love all the variations, so yeah, exactly.
Let's see here. We have a question from someone named Chris. He's curious about 3D printing stuff in ABS plastic. When you do 3D printing, do you usually use ABS?
I always use ABS. So my friends Ben and Miles, we went thirds in a printer called the Little Monster, which comes up to about here. So it's great for armor pieces and everything. And the Little Monster printed this guy. So this is ABS. I hate using PLA because of just the work time involved. Whereas with ABS. I smooth this down with acetone, and then I'll spray like primer filler on it for car bodies and just get rid of all the print lines, and then go to work sanding, and it just cuts the work time in half as opposed to PLA. So yes, I always use ABS. Try to anyway.
I am the same way. I've switched. I have my Ultimaker right here, and I've switched over to using ABS all the time. What Chris here is curious about is how you deal with like warping or delamination, especially for large projects. Now, for me, I built this enclosure for mine, so it's fully enclosed. So the temperature inside the box stays constant, and that has solved everything. The ABS sticks down to the glass plate really well. Before I do a print, I'll sort of rough up. I'll leave like the ABS goo leftovers on the glass plate. And then I'll even take an acetone and an ABS plastic slurry, and I'll brush on a layer on the glass plate. And that makes like a sticky, when it heats up, it gets sticky layer that when it starts printing on there, everything will stick down awesome. And ever since doing that and the enclosure, my prints have been coming out 100% of the time perfect, never falling off the print bed. It's been awesome.
That's genius. Well, yeah, the little monster isn't encased, but Miles has a couple of perusers, Mark II perusers, which he bought some enclosures from IKEA, just like cupboards, and they have a clear glass, so every print comes out fine with that. And actually, the print for the Red Hood helmet came out fine. There was no warping. The only issue I had was the back plate, how that is separate. Just getting that to sit flush against the ear rotors here. So there is foam there that lets it flex. So when you can put it on your head, it flexes. Mm-hmm. So I did have to attack it with a paint stripper gun just to reshape it. But other than that, no real warping problems, honestly. Yeah. Like when we first got it, Miles, because Miles is a Sparky as well. Like he does a lot of electrical engineering on cars, and he's just a whiz with that stuff. So he kind of beefed up the little monster with interchangeable nozzles and feeds and everything, and up the tech in it. So it's a beast now.
Very good. Cool.
Yeah.
There you go. ABS. It's
all the way.
All right, let's grab another question here. Mark is curious, when you travel with your costumes, what sort of luggage or cases do you use for bringing all your costumes around the world?
So recently, Laura and I were in Kuwait, and the biggest costume I had was the Pirate Batman 2.0 armor and the cowl. So I had the cowl in my backpack, so that was on with me at all times. But the armor, because you got all this elaborate leather armor, it was like Tetris packing my bag. I just had to make sure there was no free space at all, because obviously I've got that, but then also I've got to have casual clothing. So, you know, I had my Rick O'Connell costume, Nathan Drake, and Pirate Batman. So there's a lot of leather going on there, you know, with your gun rigs and everything. So I use Laura's bag, and she used my bag. I had one of those hard shell bags. And obviously, like with Laura's Harley stuff, it's easily foldable. Like there's no hard armor, which is great for her. So I used her bigger bag, which is a soft one, but it allowed me to pack more stuff in. So other than that, it's usually when we're going down to Melbourne for, say, Oz Comic Con or Supernova. You don't have to pack as much. So it's nerve-wracking when you get to the other end and your bag comes out on the carousel and you're like, I hope to God, A, everything's in one piece, and B, everything's still in there.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, traveling with costume, traveling with armor, always a good time. Let's grab another one. Thank you, Mark, for the question. Mark. Justin has a question for us. He says, he's curious if you remember he drew a picture of your Wasteland Batman a few months ago. That's very cool.
The Nightmare Batman, yeah, I've actually got all my fan art right here. So it's crazy the feedback people, like how good the feedback's been for Nightmare Batman and Pirate Batman, and like all the fan art that's come out of it. Like people are just ridiculously talented. Even like customizing pop vinyls like Pirate Batman. or even Nightmare Batman. Like there is a Nightmare Batman one, but like making it look a bit more like mine is just crazy. It's like crazy. All the raw talent out there. I love it.
I'm just looking at the pirate Batman costume. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
There was a question. He's looking for some tips on filling using Bondo for the first time. He has to fill some small air bubbles from a Resin Scout pistol casting. Any beginner tips for Bondo and other body fillers?
It depends. Like if there's bubbles throughout the whole casting, do it in sections, especially with Bondo or like Builder's Bog, which is what I use, but it's very much has the same characteristics as Bondo. You've only got, especially in humid heat, if I were doing it today, I'd do it in sections because such the minimal working time. You want to fill those holes, but you also don't want to have excess amount because it's just going to mean more work for you. So I'd cordon off certain areas and be like, okay, I'm going to attack this part. Then whilst that's drying, I'll do that part. So do it a little bit at a time and just have that, not a sense of urgency, but a sense of efficiency when you're doing it, and just to make sure you get the smoothest surface as possible for the first round and not have to go back in and fill more in.
Yeah, you don't want to make more work for yourself than you have to.
That's it. This stuff is enough work as is. So, yeah, that's my recommendation.
Very good. I believe, if I think back, I did a Bondo Basics video. So we'll find a link to that and put it in the show notes if you guys want to know more about Bondo. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
This next one here comes from CosGamer1138. What foam crafting techniques would work best for Halo armor? Well,
oh man, that's like a crash course with like Evil Ted.
Yeah, I know. Did you meet Ted when you were at the RPF party?
Yeah. Ted's stuff was right next to my Hans Moleman bust that I sculpted. He was great. Like his stuff is just phenomenal. Like before you pick it up, you're like, oh, this is gonna weigh a ton, and then you pick up like, oh my god, it's foam. It looks like heavy, like battle worn armor.
Mm-hmm. Ted is a wizard.
Yeah, like Ted's tutorials are great, especially when it comes to making shoulder pieces. You've got to get the curvature right. So,
he knows, like his brain making complex curves out of foam. Like his brain does that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
On autopilot. For Halo stuff, if you're looking for specifics on Halo stuff, look up the 405th website, 405th.com. That's the place for Halo cosplay, Halo costumes and armor, and all kinds of other stuff. It's kind of like the RPF, but just for Halo. So if you have a specific set of armor you're looking to make, or let's see. Oh, actually, Art Andrews posted there. So yeah, and Sean Bradley and lots of other awesome RPF type people. So yeah, just go over to the 405th website and see what they're sharing over there.
Awesome.
They'll be able to help you out. Also, I'm willing to bet, I haven't done any Halo costumes, but I'm willing to bet if you look on YouTube, you'll find some people have made some really great builds there.
I love it. My mate James, who's based down in Melbourne, has done an amazing Master Chief that was all foam, and he actually does a Ezra Miller Flash, and he did it before Justice League came out. So, and he nailed it, because there was that time when there was only like one promotional shot of Ezra in the suit, and he nailed it. So he's a whiz with foam, and his Master Chief is crazy good.
I would be remiss if I did not point to Andrew DFT's channel as well. He's done all kinds of Halo stuff. So just head on over, look him up, or if you look up Halo armor tutorial on YouTube, you'll find him and Heroes Workshop and a bunch of other people who have made great tutorials on Halo, including our friends from Cosplay for Us All. They did a Halo Reach Noble 6 armor build. Awesome. Nice. Thank you, CosGamer1138. And good reference in the name there. Let's see. DVD Show 2 has a question. Let's see. What type of builds would you recommend? What type of foam builds would you recommend to someone who's just getting started? What do you think would be a good starting project, Chris?
I reckon some Saiyan armor.
Yes.
Like a really not, my favorite is the ones without the shoulder pads, like Vegeta's, just like the gold straps over here. I want to tackle that one day and just do a nice form-fitting piece of Saiyan armor, because it's not too complicated, but at the same time it teaches you how to get the shape, you know, the form-fitting shape of foam. So I think it kind of covers all bases. So I think a nice set of Saiyan armor would be the way to go.
I agree. Our buddy Boba Joe does all kinds of Saiyan armor. I think he said he made something like 900 sets of Saiyan armor. So he knows a lot about that. We have a video with him that we shared on our channel, but you can also go check out his Facebook page for that, for all things Saiyan armor.
What a machine.
Yeah, geez. I also tend to point people towards, we have a video on doing a hunter knife from Destiny. That's a really good starter foam project. I have a free template for that. So if you want to just kind of get your feet wet and try out and learn some techniques, that's a good one to start with too. A small hand prop is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the first costumes I tried to do, it never even came close to getting done, was the Space Marine armor from StarCraft 2, like the giant crazy armor thing.
Yep.
I bought a ton of material and I just started like bending it, and then I gave up and never made that.
You should totally revisit that now.
Yeah.
You know how you've come.
Yes, I should. That's a great idea. Which, by the way, internet, that is no way me confirming that I'm actually going to do it.
Yes, it is.
You must know how it is. If you mention something in a video, people are like, haha, you have to do it now.
Yeah, I've made that mistake a couple of times, and people are like, when are you doing this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I said that, and I don't think I can now.
Or something else shiny has captured your attention.
Oh, look, don't get me started. It's like, yeah, I'm like Dory. I'd have like memory span of Dory.
Let's see. This question comes to us from Jackson. I'm the VP of my university's cosplay club, and we have a huge influx of people who are beginner cosplayers. What advice would you give to beginners? Another beginner question. If you had one piece of advice, Chris, for someone just getting into cosplay, what would you give?
Do what you want. Don't follow a trend, because with cosplay, it's all about emulating the characters that you love. It's not about emulating the characters that are trending. You've got to embody that character, and you've got to love being that character. It's good escapism, but also have fun with it and don't make it a chore. The second it becomes a chore, that's when you've got to walk away from it, whether it be temporarily or permanently. I've been there before where I've made it a chore and I'm like, I have to put whatever I'm working on hold and come back with a fresh pair of eyes. So do it because you want to do it and have fun with it.
Very good. I usually tell people that when they're looking for what to pick, I say to pick something that you love, like something that you can't live without. Because as you're learning new skills, you're going to get frustrated and be tempted to quit. And at some point, the only thing that's going to get you to that finish line is how much you love that thing. If it's something you don't care about, you're like, I don't need it, and you'll quit. So pick something you really love.
Exactly. That's it. And then that way you're going to do a better job.
Yes. And that's why I keep making guns from Destiny, because I can't get enough. Let's see here. Another one for Chris. Blitzatrex is curious. What got you into doing the repaints, like your collectible repaints?
Yeah, so it was pretty much like when me and my mates would go, or we still do, when we go up to like our local shopping malls just to get a feed, and we'll have a wander around with a coffee and go to the comic book shop there, and we'll, like, now and then we'd wander into Toys R Us because it's fun. Like, it's still fun to go into Toys R Us.
Oh yeah.
Target, Kmart, all that type of stuff. And I'd walk past all these toys, you know, really elaborate looking pieces, because like we've mentioned before, the detail in these pieces is so elaborate now because of 3D models and scanning and printing. And I thought, I saw the Hulkbuster, and I said, I'd love to get my hands on that and repaint it. So obviously, it's a mass-produced toy, so they're not going to put a lot of detail into it as opposed to Hot Toys. You know, there's a reason why these things are so cheap as opposed to Hot Toys. And I thought, I'm going to repaint this guy. So I bought him, repainted the Hulkbuster, put the LEDs in, posted the video, and it was so spare of the moment. I had to think of a title whilst it was up. I'm like, Chris's Custom Collectibles. I'm like, it rolls off the tongue. And then the response was crazy. I'm like, I should do another one. So I found more and more stuff to customize. And at that time, Dawn of Justice was gearing up and all the Jack-specific figures were coming out. And I loved how they did the Batfleck one. As simple as he looked, I'm like, that guy would look sweet with a repaint and a new cape. And I did that one, and that went really well. And funnily enough, the guy, his company did the files for those figures for Jack Specific. And he goes, man, I just want to let you know, I saw it, and it was amazing. And I asked him, I go, did you guys get scans and everything from Warner Bros? He goes, we got scans, we got photos of the actors in the suits with the color chart, we got everything. I go, you guys got like pretty much bang on with Affleck's likeness in that cowl. Like, for a mass-produced toy, it was beautiful. So that's why I see the potential in these toys, like, you know, mass-produced kids' toys that would just get thrown around. I'm like, let's make these look like several $100 toys that people can display and be proud of. And you learn stuff along the way, especially dealing with that plastic, that polypropylene plastic. It's just horrible. You know, like, you've dealt with it before. It's just uncooperative, but you find your ways around it, and that's good when you can learn something and tell people this is how you work with it. So, yeah, that's pretty much what got me into it, was just seeing all these toys in Toys R Us and Big W and saying, you know, I want a challenge, I want to repaint this and make it my own.
That's great. I still go, we'll go to Target to get groceries, and we're like, well, obviously we're going to go down the toy aisle, clearly, because I'm a man child.
Oh, we all are. That's why we're here.
Bushang is curious, for Chris, what is your local convention or conventions, and how many conventions do you usually go to throughout the year?
So our two biggest ones are Supernova and Oz Comicon. So the convention season's wrapped up for the year, and it doesn't start up until April, I think. So first one off the rank, I'm pretty sure, is Melbourne Supernova, which we usually go down for. And then June is Sydney Supernova. And whilst that's going on, you've also got Oz Comicon happening in, say, Perth, Brisbane. So those are our two biggest ones. Supernova was the first one that started. And Dad actually took me to the very first Supernova, which was in this tiny little convention hall. So do you know our landmark Centrepoint Tower in Sydney?
I don't.
It's like it looks like the Space Needle, but more confined.
Oh, yeah.
So it was in the little convention hall of that, and now it's just expanded. I remember Dad took me to the first one, and Sean Shamel, the voice of Goku, was there.
Yeah.
And he was great. Like, Dad was having a chat with him because Dad's like all new to this stuff, and he's fascinated by it, and he's chatting to him. I'm like, Dad, can we just go now? Stop talking to him, da. Like, I'm like this big. So I was there at the first Supernova, and it's just crazy to see how much is just blown up. So Supernova, Oz Comic Con are our two biggest ones.
This ties in with that question. Matt is curious if you're going to be at Melbourne Supernova. Because he would.
Yes. Yep. So, like, Melbourne's my favorite out of the cons because Laura and I love Melbourne. It's so different to Sydney. It's so easy to get around. They're big on their comic book shops and pop culture there. The food's great. So we always try and make it to Supernova and Oz Comic Con down there. So we were there this year for both. So we're definitely going to try and make our way down next year.
Very good. Matt would like to meet you, and he says he'll be easy to spot because he will be wearing Warhammer armor. So keep an eye out.
I love a good Space Marine or anything Warhammer. Like, I love a good Warhammer cosplay. So keen, man. Like that's saying to Matt, come up and pest me, just like grab me. I'll be like, oh my god, who is this man?
One last question here. David is curious for both of us what our favorite breakfast cereal is. Very.
You go. What's your favorite, Dave?
Very hard-hitting breakfast cereal. I don't eat a lot of breakfast cereal now, but growing up, Cinnamon Toast Crunch was definitely one of my favorites.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm like an oats and egg whites guy right now. So it's very like grandpa food. But when I was growing up, it was Cocoa Pops, Rice Bubbles, and we have a thing in Australia called Wheat Bix, which is like blocks of wheat, but you just get a whole like cup of brown sugar, and it just defines all logic of why this stuff is healthy, and it just goes out the door when you put that sugar on it. So that's what we did when we were kids.
That sounds I could go for a bowl of that right now.
It's pretty good, man, with some chocolate sprinkled over it.
That is it. Those are all the questions from the Prop Tarts in the chat. Thank you guys so much for bringing the goodness, bringing the awesome questions. And of course, Chris, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last hour.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone that asked questions. This is addictive. I love this stuff.
Yeah, this is great. We do it every week. It's always a really good time. And we will be doing it again next week, so be sure to tune in. Other than that, I think that's about all we have. Everyone needs to go to Chris's YouTube channel and subscribe.
Yep.
We'll wait while you go do that. If you look up Cosplay Chris on YouTube, you'll find him, or YouTube/horror effects is the actual link if you want to go find that out.
Okay, awesome.
And also, of course, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, all Cosplay Chris, and Etsy as well. So head on over, check out everything Chris is doing on the internet. I'm excited to see what he'll be cranking out this next year, and we'll have to have you on again and see what you cook up.
Yeah, Bill, definitely, man. Thank you very much. I'm excited to see what 2018 holds for you and all your prop and cosplay endeavors. So, and yeah, hopefully we do get to meet at a prop party one day.
Absolutely. Whether we meet up at an RPF party, or perhaps we should make the trip down to Australia.
Why not, man? Foster's on me. Even though we don't drink Foster's.
That's fine. Thank you again, and thank you everyone for watching. We will see you all next week for another exciting edition of Prop Live Q&A.